Welcome to Stock Therapy with Penny Queen. Today I have CEO Ofer Vicus with Aduro Clean Tech. Ofer, welcome.
Hi, Penny. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. The purpose of this is to give everybody a primer on Aduro Clean Tech. I know a lot of people have been with the company as investors since the beginning, but
Mhm.
since you moved on to NASDAQ late last year, I know there's a lot of new shareholders, and I think some of them don't truly know how amazing the company they're holding is. And I thought it would be a really good opportunity for us to talk just from the basics as, what does Aduro do? What's the current path and trajectory you're on?
Right.
And so I'd like to just hand it over to you with the simple question, what does Aduro do?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, thank you, of course, for all of those loyal investors that have been with us over time and us, keep on and staying with us and welcome on board to anyone who thinks, and investigate options around us. I will do my best to show what is the opportunity today. I will do my best to explain why we're different and what is the size of the opportunity. And then a little bit I'll speak of how we design our commercialization path. So the investors that are considering, the potential investors that are considering to invest in us will have some feeling of how we intend to move forward. And everything that I will say today I've said a lot of it, last year and the year before and the year before and the year before. So if investors doesn't know anything about us, they should go back and look at the things, the records that we have said 2 years ago and 1 year ago. It's all more or less of the same. I will share some slides if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Proud to say that this is our 2025 Investor Decks. And Penny, when we met, was it 2022 or 2021?
2021.
2021 Investor Day.
Yeah.
Okay, so prior to Nasdaq, it was of course the CS, and we've been public for the last 3.5 years, from April 2024. The technology has been investigated and developed over close to 12 years right now. Aduro was conceived in 2011, at the end of 2011, sorry. So what is it we are doing? Basically, of course, as a public company, we have these forward-looking statements and investors. This presentation, by the way, is on our website. So any investor that is interested, you can go back and read all of those documents. We try very much to stay on course and make sure that those documents remain intact, and investors should not find any surprise on those documents. So what is it we're doing? We develop this chemical technology platform, and we develop it to transform what we call low-value materials into higher value resources or higher value products. The idea is to unlock a lot of, I'll say, environmental and economic benefits. So many organizations has been talking about those things, and primarily we're talking about low value or waste hydrocarbons, basically. So plastic recycling, waste plastic, bitumen upgrading. Those are the two applications that this technology that we have been developed, we're head on and working to achieve commercialization. And there are other applications that I'll speak in a minute. In a way, we have developed this code, and when I say a code, this is why it's a technology platform. It's very different to whatever has been done in the last, I'll say, 70 years, and I'll try to explain exactly how we are different. We have a huge addressable market. It's just very, very large, very, very big. Those numbers, by the way, the same. We're increasing them from time to time with the recent pattern that we've been doing, but we keep those numbers and stay loyal to those numbers. We have an application in the chemical recycling, which is a very large addressable market. We have, and this is where our genesis, we started with the heavy oil upgrading. and we turn heavy oil to lighter oil, and this thing may come more active basically as we're moving forward today. But also we know that internationally, USA is definitely heading on towards more energy independence, and I think we're in a good spot to capture some of it. And we have other applications that are maybe in the back burner, converting renewable oil to sustainable fuel, dealing with waste plastic. We submitted a recent patent on another technology for chemical recycling, but to do other product. And so the skies for the technology for us in many ways is the limit. And so investors normally ask how you're different and what is it makes you different than anyone else, and this is so good. Where is this? All of those questions that we've had to answer for many, many years before. So to start, I'll say that we're a very rich IP company. We just submitted today, well, we announced today, a new patent, and in a way now we have a total of 10 patent, 7 granted, and 3 pending, or in the form of an application, all of them US, and we have many, many other patents that covers that in different territories. We're a very, very rich IP company. And for a company, if you know nothing about us, for a company that is working around hydrocarbon or hydrocarbon processing companies like ExxonMobil or ConocoPhillips or Shell, to gain this amount of patent in our space is quite unique. So if you know nothing about technology, just this letter alone should gives you a hint that this is something different than whatever we have out there. The reason being is that the first patent that we've seen in our lifetime is as early as 1930. And so ever since, the space that we are in is very, very saturated. And to be able to develop that length of patent is quite a skill, and you don't get it. Let me just move you to another slide. From this place, I will speak a little bit about the chemical recycling applications. Again, I say it again, we develop a code. This code is very different. It is easy to explain a little bit how we're different through the chemical recycling, but more or less the same applies to some of the other applications. In some cases, we have to develop a little bit new technologies towards those applications. So in chemical recycling, and this is the space where we are, the most common approach to basically break the molecule, break waste plastic into something useful, called pyrolysis. This is a heat-based approach. And basically, those molecules, they are long and heavy, and they need a lot of energy to break them down. And this is a heat-based approach, which is basically what we call is doing a bond rupturing. It's basically breaking them apart. The companies that you see around you that use the same code, if I look around in this slide, on the left, if you see my mouse is Mura. That's company that's very much associated with Dow Chemical. Plastic Energy is very much associated with SABIC. Honeywell, I'm sure everyone knows. Quantafuel used to be supported by BASF for many, many years. All of them use the same code. The problem is that if you break material in such way on a heat base, you can imagine there's a bit of a logic there. Plastic contains very different a component or chemical component. And if you hit them all together, they react differently. And if they react differently, there's all kind of things that happen. So there's a penalty there. So the way companies approach to deal with that is maybe take more or less of the same material and try as much as they could to stay from contamination. So in essence, what happened is that those organizations are working and looking for the best of the best material. And just to give you some numbers around it, in terms of content, this organization often works in a concentration of what we call polyolefin of about 90%. So 10% could be contamination, 90% is the total of the polyolefin that they can take. And if they're running or more or less of the same material and they leave everything out there, the problem is that, once Honeywell is doing it all good, But as soon as a competitor is coming in and they're both competing for the same material, what you have is price inflation. And now they're starting to run after the appropriate feedstock and in order to justify economy. And for those reasons, also you can see why they land on a very centralized, large areas. There is very limited, because they're chemically limited, they're also becoming economically limited. And so they have to live under those constraints that Aduro is breaking down. The chemolysis, as opposed to this technology, basically very, very different. We are laser focusing on breaking specific chemistry, and I won't go into the details of that right now. And we do it with a catalyst, which is a very low value and a very low value chemical engine. And when we do that, the chemolysis that you see here, we offer basically operate in a much lower energy mode. So we take much less energy. Most of those organizations works above 420, 450 degrees. We are working below 420 degrees. We have higher tolerance for contamination. And so when we talk about polyolefin, although we are starting to operate on what we want to see in our first application, a 90% polyolefin, but we have actually a path towards 80% and 75% polyolefin, which is a huge, huge difference. The price of the feedstock goes from $600 a ton to zero at that moment. And that's a meaningful thing. Basically, 25% of the material is garbage that cannot be recycled, and it's very, very expensive to sort it out. Our yield is very large. We are over 90, I'll say 85 to 95%, depending on the application that we're doing. And the value of the product that we're doing is really high. It's much higher than the value of the oil that is come from pyrolysis. So over the years, we had to create now, after we established that technology is very, very different, we have many patents, investors saw that, and they asked, well, how do you make money out of it? Next thing was to go and present this a commercial path that also internally us as a company could support, but also investors could understand, because this basically sector is very intimate. Investors doesn't know a lot about these sectors, and many of them have been burned their hands. So I'll skip other areas of this presentation. I'll say a few things in short. Basically, in the realm of plastic recycling, the first approach is mechanical recycling. And basically, the code is to try and do the maximum. To get the maximum in doing the minimum, it's basically taking a lot of the same material, clean it, shred it, do something with it. And what I want to show the investors here is that of the 400 million tons that every year society push out there, either to the water, to the landfill, to anywhere else, about 9% of this feedstock is basically mechanical recycling. And all of the companies that I showed here, basically they are doing 1% of the whole recycle. So Aduro has this opportunity, and for that reason, we don't see those guys really as a meaningful competitors, really, because just 1%. We have a lot of opportunities, and I'll speak a little bit about the way we are working and our ability to create modular system, which means effectively that we can rather do, instead of centralized location, smaller scattered machines. But Aduro has these options to go into areas which is very contaminated, those 49% of this landfill, and feed from that material. And this is very intriguing for the large organization, the large petrochemical organization that are looking basically for access for low value feedstock. And it needs to be massively in a massive amount, and it needs to be in a much lower value than they are. Remember that now for every ton they're searching, they're paying over $600 a ton. So Aduro represent an opportunity to those organizations that doesn't want to go into centralized location. And for these guys to invest anything in our technology similar to us, they need to make anywhere between 20, $30 million to hundreds of millions of dollars. Basically, a pilot would cost $60 million, more or less. And Aduro's commercial system could cost as simple as maybe $20 million, $25 million. So really, really significant. And the reason the modularity aspect of it means that basically Aduro, if you have a customer that needs more of the same, you just bring more unit of the same. So now you can see that embedded in the benefit that technology represents also new business models. So what's left now? So we prove that we have technology, we prove that there is a market, we prove that there is customers that may be interested. How do we move on a commercial path? And this is the next one, the next level that I want to share with you. And so I'll move from this slide and from those process slides to our goals. Every year, and that has been done since 2021, we came up with certain goals that investors and both the company could go and understand and go behind it. For the company, through the commercialization process, it was really important for me and for the company that we'll create one of the following three items. Either we are working to de-risk the investment, either we are working to create an opportunity, or either we're working to make sure that the company is moved forward. Because basically, this is a very dynamic market. Investors doesn't know it. And when investors hear the things that we do, they need to find a way to confirm our work to make sure that they are in control of their investment as much as they can, of course. And so with that in mind, every year we brought several very simple milestones, and those milestones, in 2024, we said we want to get some brands that will move away from the evaluation process into collaboration, and I'll speak about that. We talked about the fact that we will finish and complete the design of our pilot, and we talk about the fact that we will bring 2 pilots. And the last item that remained, we just filed our patent. Patent. And we already freeze the design several weeks ago, and we're heading, and working very hard to bring another brand that we'll call it a collaboration. So every year we are basically working to meet those goals. And for investors, it means that they can see within every goal, there is 2 or 3 reasonable press releases that we share. We put the technology out there, and we give the opportunity to investors to judge our performance day in and day out. We stay very loyal to the investors in a way that we're trying to be as transparent as possible for the investors. And so investors, if they know anything, now they start reading about what we've been doing. They are looking and considering how many customers I had a day before they read about us and how many customers we have a day after, and they know that I either made some progress, reduced the de-risk the company, or create an opportunity. In 2025, we're doing the same. Our first and major goal is we want to see the pilot up and running by the end of Q3 of this year. We want to finish a design, which is a commercial design of a unit by the end of this year. All of those are very, very aggressive goals for a company that is developing a chemical process. We have several potential customers, and we want to expand and bring several more into our shop by way of collaboration. And there is a difference, and we build a program for the customers. We call it a customer engagement program. I'll spend a little bit time for the guys here to see what we're talking about. So we want 2 of them, 3 of them to become customers. And we want to continue and build on our intellectual property to make sure that our commercial path, because we have not just the hydrochemolytic, we have other opportunities, but the way to do that from our perspective is to make sure that we have appropriate partners to work with them. So those things are a little bit in line together. And those are the goals for 2025. And for investors who knows nothing about the work that we've been doing, they basically need to go now to the press release and judge us based on our performance. And we're trying to be very transparent with the press release and share the data as soon as we have it. And today there was an announcement about us filing up a patent. But what you see here is our approach towards customers. So customers, from our perspective, are in this delicate stage where they have to decide on putting millions up to hundreds of millions of dollars in a technology. And many of them over the years did not heard of what we've been doing. And so now they are just under pressure to build and commit to something, because in 2025 and forward, some regulations are coming in and they are under the gun to come up with the solutions for chemical recycling. So we came up with the three-stage programs. We call it technology evaluation, we call it later collaboration and commercialization. And technology evaluation is basically sharing and selling data to interested organization. So they're on the bench. They, prove me, Aduro, that this is better than sliced bread, kind of a thing. And we have about 5 of those organizations, I think 7 today, that are paying for us to do the research, but we don't bring organization in that doesn't create some sorts of benefit towards us. In other words, as opposed to many of our peers that are basically building a pilot and bringing people to drink coffee and watch the pilot, and either there is a business or there isn't a business, we decided to expose the technology at a very, very early stage to customers. We can gain a lot of benefit from the customers, shooting holes in the technology. We don't awake in 5 years with an old technology, nobody wants. And so the first stage was just evaluate. And those deals that we earn revenue on are basically from anywhere between 25, 30, $40,000 to could be up to 100, $200,000, and they could be anywhere between 1 to 3 months to up to 10, 15 months. This is depending basically on the customer. In other words, if Shell wants to do something with you, you don't dictate. You give them, they are coming up with some ideas of what they want to see, and you just dare to ask, what time, Shell, you want me to be, and what do you want to see, and I'll share with you as much as I can. And so that's how we react to those technology evaluation. And in 2024, our goal was to bring 2 of those guys to collaborate with us, and we have done successfully well with Total Energy, which entered to a collaboration agreement. And we're working now to finish the next collaboration agreement. And I can tell you, investors, that if you knew that I have 5 of those technology evaluation and now I'm bringing 2 collaboration, you can see that there is lesser risk or more chances that some of them will go to commercialization. And so we put it out there for customers, for investors to look and judge on our performance. And I think every year to the letter, we manage to score and perform. And Penny, you are here now as a witness. You can state if we've done differently than whatever, and if anything that I'm telling you now is different than you heard 2 years ago and 3 years ago.
When you say, is it different? Yeah, it's very different. It is more well developed. But did you do what you said you would do every single year? So you have been public now for less than 4 years, but shares are worth more. I think it's more than 4 times as much as they were. So I like to see development on 2 different sides. I want to see development in my investment, because investors are at their core looking in terms of money. But I also want to see development in terms of the technology. And this is a very large, complicated piece of technology. And while all of your investors have an understanding of what you're doing, most of us aren't chemists, and we're certainly not mechanical engineers. So getting it broken down, and this is very easy for us to digest, that your people are going to evaluate these companies that are multi-billion-dollar clients are going to evaluate technology, because an investment for them would probably be in terms of hundreds of millions of dollars. And as long as that's working, then they're going to move into collaboration, and then it's into commercialization. That's a very easy step to understand without having to truly understand, the molecular level.
Yeah. So you're correct. And in every year we are trying to work very hard, to exceed the expectations. So in 2024, listening very carefully to some of the items that investors were facing with and the opportunities that we want to bring in 2025 and forward, we uplist the company to NASDAQ. So that was a bit of a bonus on everything else that we've been doing on top of all the others. You are very much correct that those organizations have to make hundreds of millions of dollars of decisions. And for us to go with it, and where we are today, I feel we are again in front of a transition mode. The difference is that we had for the last 3 years, what we call technology demonstration units. And now in 2025, for the first time, we are bringing up to the air a pilot that if you inflate it is a commercial pilot. And so we expect to unlock discussion just based on the fact that the pilot that we're bringing is a pilot that, is of a commercial, I'll say, vision. And if you inflate it, it will become a commercial unit, basically. That's kind of all 100% of the components of those pilots are made from industrial equipment. The design of the pilot has a novelty by itself, and the patent that we filed today speaks about the fact that we are in possession of a very effective design to apply to our very unique chemistry. And in this specific design, while most of our peers are using extruders to bring and feed waste plastic into reactors, we actually develop a process where we're using extruder as part of the reactor system. And so we're jumping ahead. And because extruder is, and the rest of the machine, of the process is made of, off-the-shelf equipment, the issue of scalability and moving on from small to large become much simpler because this is a chemical process. This is at the end of the day a plant, and you need to try and maybe not privatize it, but make it scalable for in order to be able to scatter it in solutions. So the way most of our peers are working is that they are working a centralized location, and then let's say they take on a city, or whatever the city will be, and they take just specific, but really they are normalizing a feedstock to their needs. What we have here is a technology that we can configure solution to different type of feedstocks, and starting from small to large, starting from very low contamination in a small volume to a very complex and large in contamination, but also in large in volume. And so we're breaking a lot of the problems that our peers have. And that is very intriguing to now. How do we make money out of it? We came back and says we will do things from simple to complex. And the next slide that I want to share with you, and let me see if I have it here, is the fact that we are investigating and working very, very hard to achieve commercial revenue from material on a smaller scale, and not the most complex, material that is out there. Because again, if you remember what I wanted to do through the journey of commercialization, de-risk the company, create opportunity for the company, and making sure we're moving forward. And so us bringing revenue to the company sooner than later, even on a smaller scale, definitely de-risk the whole investment. And so this is a very important item for us. And because of the nature of how we've been working, while we are working on commercializing simple application, and I'll give you simple application could be something like agricultural feedstock. Agricultural feedstock, just for the audience who knows nothing about it, could contain 95% of the same material, polyethylene, for example, but a little bit of dirt, and it's very, very hard. It's scattered. It comes in very low volume, and you need to collect it and you need to ship it. And by the time you finish with it, it ends up in some kind of a waste processing with other things, and it becomes contamination. So smaller scale unit could, in theory, bring and provide solutions like it, and you can catch it before anyone else will see it. And while we're doing those work, we are continue to develop solution to the complex and dirty. So even the systems that we will commercialize will start from simple that will secure revenue to the company. And on top of that, there is a bunch of work that we're doing to already upgrade it to the most complex. And we've done in the last 3 or 4 years, thousands of hours of works. on hundreds of thousands of works on research in order to do that. And in 2025, we came up with design, which we feel is very novel and effective and address actually the needs of the company to be able to provide solution on a smaller scale and later extend it and increase them. And that's what we are going to show. We start buying equipment for this pilot, long lead items, and we are on our way to basically prepare the site for it. And so we're very, very excited, but very, very busy. And this is crunch time for the company again in 2025. And we offer all of that for investors to see, because that's what we will share with them. And the last item, unless Penny, you have any other question, is basically, I'll take you to this slide and I'll give you a little bit of explanation, but unless you have any other things that you think that I need to go over and maybe explain to investors.
I actually have a couple simple questions, and I'm glad we're on this page. Who's the largest shareholder?
I'm the largest shareholder, currently holding probably about 29 or 30%. And I have not sold any of my shares ever.
There we have it. This, when I look at Aduro, I have to tell you that I spent probably the first 2 years after you went public trying to explain to people that this was not a penny stock. Like, don't look at the price, look at the technology. It's being developed and it's being discovered.
I agree.
And
yeah,
seeing that you never sold and that you tended the share count so judiciously. Every raise that you've done has been an up round. And that gives investors a lot of confidence that, if there is a raise, we know what it's going to be used for. And every single raise has led to an increase in the value of the company, increase in the value for shareholders. But that's really important for us to see. And for people who are new here, a lot of these shares were only unlocked for insiders as certain goals were maintained. So this practice of setting goals and achieving them. Yeah.
Yeah, I can say that to the investor. So we in the initial round, we received the obvious concerns from investors, and we took basically 66 of our owning and put it aside and committed to milestones that if we will not achieve them by a certain time, it will basically disappear. And those milestones were 3 or 4 years ahead or 2 years ahead. I can't remember exactly, how much far ahead they've been. And we, of course, delivered to all of them. And they are associated. One of the milestones was, for example, to prove that technology is unique. And we have done that. The other milestones was to show one of, I think, 4 or 5 aspects of commercialization interest with customers, and I think a certain value of the company at some point of time. I don't remember exactly, but it was 2-3 years ago. But we achieved all of those milestones, and we gained back 66% of our owning, which were not bonus. They were our own shares that could be basically disappear if we will not achieve those milestones. But that triggers us to continue and build milestones for investors to build the record. And for the new investors, we feel that we are again in a transition mode. If they know nothing about the company, they should look at how we work in the last 2-3 years. They should look at this year's goals, and they should make their own assumptions, of course. But that's what we're going to spend our time in 2025. By the end of 2025, you and I will sit again and we'll see where we are. And I'm intending and hoping that there'll be a pilot that is up and running, and that we'll be able to say that we finish a commercial design of a unit. That's very, very important for us.
I will say that there are 4 big pillars for me that I've measured Aduro on. And we just covered the shares and how you locked those up and put your own shares at risk uh, to achieve these stated goals. That was a big thing for me. The technology, I could go on for hours, and I won't make people listen any more on the technology side. But before your IPO, I got to meet you in Toronto, and we had a conversation, and you looked right at me and explained how it worked, and you were so serious about the technology, and you felt utterly unlike any CEO I'd ever met talking about their company, because you were talking about the technology itself. Like, that was the only important part of this. And as I've seen it grow, it's grown into, what are the goals for every year? That's, third pillar for me. Every year you lay those out. And then the fourth pillar for me is the quality of the companies that you're working with. We don't know the names of all of them. Of the companies we do know, they're very, very big names. Shell and Total Energies, those are massive companies, but we
Yeah.
know the valuations of the other ones. And for those companies with their giant suites of chemists and PhDs to validate and take your technology seriously, that was what I needed to commit every round. This is, every round it's another talk on, how much do I believe in this company? And every time I find myself believing more. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And I do want to add one or two things, just for clarification. So with respect to the companies that we're working, and sometimes investors tends to ask, well, why do they don't invest? It's very obvious. Why don't? Well, those large companies don't. If you want them to invest in you, then you have to wait. I don't know. It goes to the board and approval and this and that. We don't wait for them to invest in us. We prefer working, with the research team and get POs and work on the PO level rather than investment level, because investors could take 5 years, and active projects are much, much faster. And this is how we work with them. Now, in many cases, and I've seen investor reading and coming back and asking, well, the revenue is not so high. Well, yes, we don't expect to earn a lot of money from those testing. Well, we're actually quite unique in actually generating revenue from our customers on research we have to do. So, just put it in perspective. We don't give exclusivity, which in effect means that we basically give them the freedom to decide if they want to join in, if they want to join out. We want to be there if they want us, basically. And so they get to decide if they want to stay or they want to do. And some of them may not stick to us. And that is okay. I know for investors, this is a terrible message, but some of them will, have corporate decisions to do other things. But we have several right now. We have a pipeline. We're building this pipeline of several Fortune 500 that I feel can every deal with each one of them is a company maker if we'll do it in the right way. So we are working very hard. We cherish them, and we don't also dismiss the fact that they control a lot of the marketing. They don't want to give you the names for all kind of reasons. They don't want to give you them share the names. It's very hard for them to share a name. And so we're working with them. We're not working on them. And investors needs to know that's kind of a reality. But still, we created a lot of work that generated significant value for the company. We created a patent that gave us basically another addressable market, the BTX, significant patent. We have done some work in areas that we've seen that there is, opportunities for the company to grow an application. And the reason we don't sign them is that because we don't publish work without having an approval partner that will support that. The rounds that we have been doing, we're listening very carefully to the investors. So on the financial side, the rounds we've been doing, them, of course, all of them have been up rounds, and we try to avoid dilution as much as we can. We've been many times offered 3 times the amount of money that we wanted at just, a lower 2 cents below the round before. And we said no. We took as much as money as we could. And we have access to non-diluted funding. You see here warrants and options that are outstanding, and this money is coming into the company. All of those are in the money right now, and they're coming into the company as we speak. And so there's a lot of non-diluted funding that could come also in the form of potential grants. And so, I mean, this is, I have to say, Mina, our CFO, is just, wonderful guy. It's just the way we've been working together, and the way he led this was wonderful and outstanding. And I think you see on one side we execute, on the other side we keep our eyes on the prize, and we've done whatever we can to maintain value. That's how we work. And that's what we want to present to investors, and they get to decide.
All right. I love hearing that all those warrants are in the money, because that is a very rare thing. Right. It just is. And it I don't know. I rest easy with this investment. And it is very nice for me as a shareholder, especially as a US shareholder, to have it on NASDAQ now. I mean, it feels like a big graduation, and I hate to say it because I know this isn't an important part of investing, but it allows me to go, see, I was right. And that's important.
You say that. I don't want to say that. I'll just
I
focus
will
on
say
the goal
that.
that we
I
have,
will
and you
happily
decide what to
say
do. I'm not going to say
that I feel vindicated in seeing the company have so much success, because a lot of people just didn't understand how important it is. And I mean, that's something that we haven't even been talking about here, how important plastic recycling actually is. And then when we talk about the bitumen side, and uplifting the API of like heavy crudes, it's a huge market, and it's very critical for energy independence, not just in the US, but maybe even more so in Canada, where there's so much heavy crude.
Agree, and we're working very hard. And the reason we don't publish anything, because we want to bring out some results. This industry saw a lot in the last 70 years. And so once we are bringing and delivering those results, we will share with them, with the investors. And I know it takes a little bit of time, but that's the goal, and that's what we committed to.
Well, I'm willing to be patient. So it's treated me very, very well here. I feel like the rewards are steady, and everything with the company has been steady. That's more than you can ask for as an investor.
Well, thank you very much, and I encourage investors to ask. I mean, to investigate, to do their research. There'll be days of up, there'll be days of down, and see if something changed in the business. If we've done something different, you get to decide what you want to do with your money. We're very proud to, and we hold dearly this it's gravitate. Managing other people's money is not something that we take for granted, and we try to be as cautious as we can with it, but we also try to be as aggressive as we can to bring as much as possible to. And we're still a young, and there's a lot to go, but I feel that 2025 could be a year of transition for us again, because of the that reality that we're bringing a pilot that was never seen before. It's a first in kind machine.
I'm excited.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, and thank you for the review and the overview of Aduro.
Thank you very much, Penny.